We are in section 6.3, and this is your section regarding hard trinomials. This will be the hardest section that you've completed all year. You'll notice that on the note sheet I provided for you, I have many problems, and this was just too big to create in a file. So you will see that from this sheet, I'm only selecting a few from each section. If you do need extra practice, just email me or Canvas message me, and I will be glad to send you other examples. We are factoring hard trinomials, and those are trinomials that contain a leading number other than 1. First of all, if you're factoring any kind of polynomial, you're always going to look for a greatest common factor first. If there's not a greatest common factor in the beginning, you will not have one in parentheses either. And I'll talk to you about that as we go along. If the constant term is positive, just like from the last section, if the constant term is positive, the signs in the parentheses are the same. If the constant term is negative, the signs in parentheses are different. Then you have a little procedure there. So let's just jump straight into it and factor completely. Now this first one is going to take us a while to do, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on it, but hopefully you'll practice these enough that it won't take quite as long. This one is twice as hard as the ones from the previous section because not only are we looking at our factors of 8 in this problem, we're also looking at our factors of 5. So I'm asking you to factor 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. The numbers in the front that make up 5 would be 5 times 1. And the numbers in the back that make up 8 would be 8 times 1 and 4 times 4. I'm sorry, that's 4 times 2. Now I have to pair these factors up in such a way that I'm going to get a 14 in the middle. And I'm going to work it by a way called trial and error. I will also work it in just a little bit by a grouping method. Either way is fine. But I will caution you that your teacher next semester will use trial and error, so you may want to really concentrate on those. I noticed that the 5x squared is on the front. So that means when I open my parentheses, I'm going to take a 5 and an x and an x. So 5x goes in the first set of parentheses and x goes in the second because 5x times x would give me 5x squared in the front for the first term, the front term. So you'll say, well, what can I use for 8? Any of those red numbers. You can use 8 and 1, you can use 4 and 2. You do have to use them as a pair, but you can use either of those. So I'm just going to put an 8 and a 1 here, and we're going to look at it. So if we were to FOIL it out, my first term was 5x times x, which I know is 5x squared. And my last term, I put in myself, that's 8 times 1, so that's 8. So what I really have to check here are the middle terms. And remember, FOILing goes first, outer, inner, and last. So we're going to make this outside rainbow, and this outside rainbow gives us 5x. And then we'll make an inside rainbow, and this inside rainbow gives me 8x. Well, 5x and 8x give me a 13x. So that's not 14, so that means that this group didn't work. So if it didn't work, we can try something else. So instead of 8 and 1, let's try 1 and 8. Again, 5x times x worked for 5x squared. 1 times 8 works for 8. All I have to do is check my middle numbers, and I do that with rainbows. So 5x times 8 gives me 40x, and 1 times x gives me 1x. Well, 40 and 1 give me 41, so that doesn't work. So that means that 8 and 1 did not work. So we have to use 4 and 2. So let's start back over, and I'm going to use 5x times x because that's my only combination for 5x squared. But this time I'm going to plug in a 4 and a 2. So let's try our outside rainbow, and this gives me a 10x. And our inside rainbow gives me a 4x. And 10 and 4 would give me a negative 14x if they were the same sign and they were both negative. Same sign, both negative. So your answer for this particular problem would be 5x minus 4 times x minus 2. Remember, you can always FOIL out your answer to check it. Now, I took my time on that one and I went through all the possibilities, but there is sometimes an easier way to check them, an easier way to pick your factors. So let's try another one. I want to work 4x squared plus 31x minus 8, and I want you to factor it completely. My choices for 4 are 4 and 1 and 2 and 2, and my choices for 8 are 8 and 1 and 4 and 2. Now this little suggestion doesn't work for all factors, but it works most of the time. So let's look at all of our factor pairs. I have 4 and 1, 2 and 2, 8 and 1, and 2 and 2. So take the largest number in the factor pairs and try them out. So I'm going to try that 4, the blue 4. 4 times 8 is 32. That's really close to 31. So since that's really close to 31, that's going to be the group that I try first. So I'm going to try 4 times 8 because that's close to 31. So let's open our parentheses and try it out. So I have 4x and 1x because 4 times 1 would give me the 4x squared in the front. Now, one of the things I mentioned on the first slide was that you cannot have a greatest common factor in parentheses. That means you cannot put the 8 in this set of parentheses because 4 and 8 would have something in common. So when you're factoring these hard trinomials, that's another way that you can narrow down your choices. Do not put anything in common in the same set. So if I'm choosing 8 and 1, that means the 8 has to go over here and the 1 has to go in the first set of parentheses. So if you make your rainbows, you get a 32x and you get a 1x. Now keep in mind I'm looking for a positive 31x. So if the 32 was positive and the 1 was negative, that would give me a positive 31. But there's not a 32 in parentheses, so the way that you find your 32, that was made up of 4 times 8. So I need that to be positive, the 1 is negative, and your answer for this particular problem would be 4x minus 1 times x plus 8. Okay, since the file is getting large, I'm going to stop here. I'll pick back up with the second problems in the next video.